The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Northwest Leicestershire again. Now this one today has not just one but two villages within it, and our main walk is going to be around the one that's not actually the name of the parish, although the name of the parish is a little bit debatable these days, and I'll explain why in this episode. Behind me there we can see we have a church. Now this is in the smaller of the two villages, but isn't that just a grand fantastic building? Let's check it out. This is the parish of Swepstone. Swepstone, Sweppy's farm. Rounding off this latest run in northwest Leicestershire, we come to a parish that has two settlements within it. One of them has the oldest pub in the county, and that's called the Belper Arms. You'll find that in the delightful little village of Newton Burgoland, which is part of the parish of Swepstone. Located about 5 miles south of Ashby, Swepstone village is the principal settlement here, even though Newton Burgoland is bigger. Note that the title of this episode is not what some of you might expect. This is simply Swepstone, and there's a reason for that. In order to stay absolutely true to the list I have to follow, I must go with the names that are put before me there. Officially, according to the Office for National Statistics, this is still Swepstone, but in March 2023, the parish was renamed to Swepstone and Newton Burgoland. So now you know, and that'll stop any smart comments below. Seriously, that sort of thing does happen. Anyway, Swepstone first appears in the Domesday Book, where it's referred to as Scopestone. It didn't take its current form until 1130. Swepstone has for centuries been an agricultural village, but it's not too far removed from the coal mining villages nearby. Swepstone's farmers regularly sold their cattle in local market towns. Whilst Swepstone possesses the church here, it's Newton that has the far more notable landmarks. It's also the birthplace of a man who was quite famous for building pipe organs once upon a time. So let's get to them both and see what Swepstone and Newton Burgoland are all about. Swepstone village is a linear settlement, even though it's made up of two roads. I'd describe it as being T-shaped. The main road from east to west is Main Street, although arguably it has less on it than Church Street, which is the one from north to south. The two roads meet each other at a junction that's north of the village centre, defined primarily by St Peter's Church. This is Main Street, and as you can tell, it's mostly housing, and it's the same story generally on Church Street. Swepstone contains 5 listed buildings. They are the Manor House, Church Farmhouse, St Peter's Church, Swepstone House and Temper Farmhouse. The 1911 census records a miller who worked at the 19th century clock mill. That had an adjoining bakery which went out of use in 1967, with its former watercourse now diverted. In 1911 there were nearly as many coal miners in the village as agricultural workers. As early as 1660, Swepstone pits in the far western part of the parish produced coal for the Mayor of Leicester. That area would later develop into Measham Colliery, where the Swepstone men would have probably been employed. The village is recorded in the Domesday Book as Scropestone, and after the Norman conquest the manor passed to Henry de Ferrers, one of 210 that were given to him throughout Derbyshire and Leicestershire for his support during and after the invasion. There was probably a church back then, on or close to the site of the present one. If there was, no trace of it now exists. Today, St Peter's Church is really the only landmark of note in the village. Let's have a look at it. The church we see today mostly dates from the 14th century, and that date includes the nave and the aisles. The tower could be earlier, but was largely rebuilt in 1842 by cladding it in ashlar. In about 1800, when John Nichols was writing his History and Antiquities of Leicestershire, this church consisted of a chancel, a nave, a north and south aisle, a porch, and that west tower, much as we see today. In 1842, as well as the tower renovation, Henry Stevens, who hailed from Derby, rearranged St Peter's furnishings. In 1869, the chancel was rebuilt in the usual Victorian style, and in the following year, the nave and aisles were also restored. Most of the funds for these restorations were donated by the Reverend W.C. Hodgson. Its plain circular font is probably Norman and is by the south door, as are two alabaster tombs. One has a knight in full-length half mail with his sword and gloves. That is William Humphrey, who died on the 3rd of March 1591. Across from his tomb is a stone monument to an unknown lady who's dressed in a wimple. Now there's a curious word. A wimple is a cloth headdress that covers the head, neck and the sides of the face. It was formerly worn by women and it's still worn by some nuns. The garment dates her to the 14th and 15th centuries. Swepstone Church sits in a prominent position. At Christmas they have a star on top of the church that can be seen for miles. This church has a nice character, and with its monuments and other features, it's well worth a visit. Now here's something of a peculiarity about the churchyard here in Swepstone. You'll have noticed there's not many gravestones. In fact, most of them are all at the back of the church, kind of over there, behind the tower, and over there's a newer section off to the right there. There's a footpath which runs across that field, and most of the graves are sort of there. There are some ones that are flat. In this section here, there's some ones that are sort of flat stones laid on the floor, but this section here is, well, barren, isn't it? Apart from one, there's one solitary gravestone here. Now, when I was researching this church, I couldn't find who this belonged to, so we're going to have a look and see who it belongs to. So this is in memory of Anne, the beloved wife of Elijah Timms of Helpout Mill, who died March the 14th, that was my birthday by the way, 1883, aged 59 years. Also of Elijah Timms, who died August the 16th, 1885, aged 62, and Elizabeth Timms died January the 17th, 1924, aged 80. And at the bottom we've also got Elijah Thomas Timms, November the 20th, 1989, aged 84. So these are all members of the Timms family. There we go. I wonder why they have that grave on its own in front of the church. Why is it not with the others over there? Who knows? Right, let's hop back in the car and continue through Swepstone. So now, as far as Swepstone goes, all we have to do is complete the village by driving south towards Newton Burgoland. Once again, it's mainly housing, but keep your eyes peeled as we drive for the old school. It was built in 1843 and stands at a junction where the Newton Road meets a lane that flies off to the west towards the Old Crown Inn at Snareston. The school was endowed by the will of Anne Clare, who left £75 a year in 1691. Today, the old school is a well-used village hall, and Anne Clare's charity still exists. Some notable people have been Swepstone's Lord of the Manor. In the 13th century it was Henry Hastings, the governor of Kenilworth Castle. Edward, Prince of Wales, also known as the Black Prince, held it in 1376. To that end, the ancient block north door in St Peter's Church is still known as the Black Prince's Door to this day. Swepstone used to include a small settlement named Newton Nethercote, which formed part of the village. The remains of it and its earthworks can be seen quite clearly on overhead imagery. So what about Newton Burgoland then? Well, here's a bit of history about that before we reach it. Again, like Swepstone, the village is recorded firstly in the Domesday Book, where it appears as Newtone. It's referred to as Newtone Burgolon in 1390. The name Newton means new homestead or village, and that's the easy bit. The Burgoland element refers to the Burgolon family, who probably came from Burgundy in France. The name, after all, means Burgundian. It's famous for a few things, this place. For one, it was the birthplace of a well-known organ builder, but it also has the oldest pub in Leicestershire. Let's get to walking. So aside from the church, which of course is in Swepstone, Newton Burgoland is the place that has all of this parish's general sort of facilities and amenities. It's got a pub, which we'll come to a bit later. There's also an interesting little farm that sells honey, which we'll check out towards the end. And it's also got a school, as you can see here. There's the sign for the school. Let's check that out. So, as we know already, Swepstone has no school. We've just passed the old school building in driving to Newton. The parish does, though, have an active school, and this is it. This school was built on land given by Lord Belper, with financial support provided by the village's former Wesleyan chapel. The education history in Swepstone and Newton is long and complicated, but this is the best way I can summarise it. In 1712, the rector of Swepstone noted that the parish had no charity school, but there was one close by. He was referring to the free school in Appleby Magna, founded by Sir John Moore in 1699. In addition to the school in Appleby Magna, there was also the endowed school at Snareston, established in 1717 by Thomas Charnels. If you lived in Swepstone or Newton at that time, they were your best options. That said, there were about 25 children who attended dame schools during the week, according to the rector, but he never indicated which village they were in. By 1833, Swepstone and Newton had 5 daily schools, teaching 37 boys and 41 girls, whose parents paid fees. 10 years later, along came the National School, which we passed earlier. Now, the only one that survives is Newton Burgoland Primary, and it sort of makes sense, given how big this village is. Situated on School Lane, children attending this one typically transfer to Ibstock Community College or the Market Bosworth School upon reaching the age of 11. Around the back of the school is a small playing field which is officially known as Rags Yard Recreation Ground. The locals, though, simply call it the Raggy. And for those wondering if it did actually go in, yes it did. It sort of touched the post and then just bounced in. So I'm taking that. Right, okay, let's go back past the school and we're going to head off around the rest of the village now. I'm going to check out some of these residential areas you can see in shot now. Newton has some fabulous residences. Among its listed buildings are Grange Farmhouse of circa 1800, numbers 7 and 9 School Lane, a timber frame cottage from the 17th century, its former Congregational Church, and the Green Cottage, which was formerly the Church Sunday School. Also among that number is the one I picked out as my favourite, the impressive Abingdon Lodge. This can be found on the junction where School Lane meets Main Street. Okay, next to that phone box we have a parish notice board, and you know what that means. I just want to point something out to you though before I put a card on the board, and that is of course that it still says Newton Burgoland Parish Notices. Well, that's kind of not right anymore because this is supposed to be Swepstone and Newton Burgoland Parish now, but there are still some signs of the old system, and so that's why it still says that, I would assume. You can even see underneath it says Swepstone and Newton Burgoland Parish Council, elected by you and working with you to make a difference for us all. So there's obviously a few things that need to be changed still. It's a fairly recent change, and that's why the episode title here is just Swepstone and not Swepstone and Newton Burgoland. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on about that. There's more important things to do. Let's put the card on the board and let's get this one marked off. There we go, that one's done. So to the pub. This is the only one in the parish and it's called the Belper Arms. It is officially the oldest pub in Leicestershire because it dates back to 1290. No pub in the county can claim to be older, and given the date, not many in the entire country can either. Back then it was named the Shepherd and the Shepherdess Inn. Today it's named the Belper Arms in reference to the former lord of the manor. Newton used to have a second pub called the Spade Tree. That was demolished in 2013 to make way for housing. It took its name from a spade tree maker or spade tree turner who made wooden spade handles on a lathe. During the war, British soldiers would often visit the public houses in Newton Burgoland, including both the Spade Tree and the Belper Arms. During World War II, the village was highly affected by German bombing, which took place in the surrounding villages such as Odston, Measham and Heather. In 1940, evacuees were escorted to the village, notably from Coventry, Birmingham and London, to escape the bombing in such cities. Nearby Gopsall Hall was later requisitioned as a barracks for the soldiers. Well, I have to admit, at this northern end of the village, there's been some fantastic gardens. I don't like to see an untidy garden, I like to see one that's nice and neat, and that comes from my mother, who is an absolute wizard, shall we say, when it comes to anything in the garden. Fantastic effort from some of these people here in Newton Burgoland. Now, there's a certain insect that likes a nice garden too, a bee, and here in Newton Burgoland you can buy some honey. Now here's something unusual to finish with. On this corner is the Burgoland Bees honey farm. This specialises in producing fresh, locally sourced honey, including both raw and comb. Their commitment to quality ensures that customers receive pure and flavourful products straight from the hive. Leicestershire is not the first county you think of when it comes to the production of honey, but from what I can gather, it's actually quite a big deal out here. We may well see more honey farms as we journey deeper into the county. No video about Newton Burgoland would be complete without a mention of John Hayward Compton. Born in the village in 1876, he was a pipe organ builder. His business was based in both Nottingham and London and flourished between 1902 and 1965. Compton was educated at King Edward's School in Birmingham, and then he studied as an apprentice with Helmshire & Sons in the city. In 1898 he joined Brindley and Foster in Sheffield before linking up with Charles Lloyd in Nottingham. He set up the business of Musson and Compton in 1902 in Nottingham with James Frederick Musson. That partnership was dissolved in 1904, but in 1919 the business moved to workshops at Turnham Green Terrace in Chiswick, London, which had been vacated by August Gurn. He occupied a new factory at Chase Road in Park Royal, North Acton by 1930. Compton worked primarily on electric action pipe organs and electronic organs. His first electronic instrument was the mellotone, which was quickly followed by the theatrone. The electrone, which was an electrostatic tone wheel instrument introduced in 1938, evolved out of research by Leslie Bourne. Throughout his organ-building career, Compton was assisted by the very capable and inventive James Isaac Taylor, who spent his entire working life with the Compton firm before his death in 1958. Compton also befriended the wealthy industrialist Albert Henry Midgley. He was one of the founders of C.A. Vandervelde, which later became CAV Lucas Limited, a major supplier of electrical equipment to the motor industry. Midgley was one of the most prolific inventors of his age, with over 900 inventions to his name. Following a rift with CAV Lucas, he was appointed technical director of the Compton firm in 1925. Midgley's genius in electrical engineering and mass production techniques helped the Compton firm to achieve an extraordinary level of productivity. The company was awarded many original patents in things ranging from simple organ mechanisms to the most complex state-of-the-art electronic and electrical inventions. Many of those patents show that Midgley was cited as the inventor. Compton's cinema organs were the most prevalent of their kind in the UK. A total of 261 were installed in cinemas and theatres in the British Isles. The company's cinema organs employed the latest technology and engineering, and many are still in existence. One of the most notable is the large 5-manual example at the Odeon Cinema in Leicester Square, central London. In 1940, during World War II, Compton was arrested in Italy while holidaying on the island of Capri. He was interned as an enemy alien, but spent much of his time restoring pipe organs before being permitted to return to England. He died at King Edward's Hospital at Ealing in 1957 and was cremated at Mortlake. The business continued under the direction of Taylor, who died the following year. The business was wound up in around 1965, with the pipe organ department being sold to Rushworth and Draper. The electronic department became making organs. And we're done with Newton Burgoland and Swepstone as a whole. That's been another great little run of parishes in northwest Leicestershire. We are 12 into this series now, and we only have 19 more to go. Join me soon for some more, everyone. But for now, it's goodbye. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.